We DNA test your dog's poop to make sure you're not letting your dog poop outside. But that's not a surveillance grid. That's not Beyond Big Brother or Brave New World. It's a master plan to take you down. I think your mustache is cool, actually.
So far, I've mostly been focusing on the big dick Kojima alone because, well, that's just one of the many narrative frames that I had been using as I introduced him near the start. Forced to make his game, how did we get here, etc. But of course, dude doesn't actually make these on his own. There's amazing translators like Jeremy Blaustein or Agnes Kaku who would work on a certain game coming up soon, actors like David Hayter or Paul Eiding who would provide iconically cheesy meme-ready voices, amazing artists like Tomohiro Nishio and of course Yoji Shinkawa for everything solid onward using his sleek propaganda poster-esque style making our snakes look proper bossy, not to mention his insane mech designs and so on and so forth. However, what is kind of weird is that it's often framed as if Kojima does actually write these games on his own. Like the script, the ideas, the themes, that's all him. And there is some truth to that. Authorship is hard to define at times if it's even real at all when working with teams of upwards of hundreds of people, but in the end there is no denying that all the games that he's worked on will carry a certain style of storytelling that'll tie into Hideo as a person, like using environmental themes or blatant sexism. But no, he didn't actually write these on his own. He has editors, believe it or not, people that patch up his ideas, who will have a certain flow about them, making sentences sound nice, people who will have clever ways to implement themes, and so on. And one of these people was a man called Shinta Nojiri. Shinta was born on the April 8th, 1971, within the Konami gulags, where he was raised to be the ultimate writer. Created from DNA of Hideo himself and stray bits of Suda51, he was to be more collected and focused than either, while still being able to display unbound creativity. Someone with a level head, pretty much, who could direct the crazy ambition and distill it down. He got his first test run on Police Knots as an assistant to Kojima directly, although problems would soon start to show. Kojima's head had grown too large, you see, as he had already started copying shirts with dick jokes on him, so much as Shinta tried, he could not convince Kojima to put away the biogender rants. Frustrated, angered, and confused, Shinta was shut down and taken back to the drawing board. And the new plan was devised instead. See, to be an active assistant director, should one not also have the chops as a director alone? Well, yeah, Konami thought, and so they would scale shit back a dimension on one of Nintendo's super popular handhelds, the Game Boy of Color, to then make a game that would build upon the design standards as set by Metal Gear 2, not with limitless ambition, but with a focus, creativity, and the willingness to expand within the limitations of a system. An alternate universe Metal Gear Solid by an alternate universe Kojima, if you will. Amazingly titled Metal Gear Ghost Babel. Wow, that's one hell of a sound effect you got there. Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Just make it louder. Well, so Snake is grumping on a plane, reenacting the briefing scene from MGS2, only this time Snake isn't being sent to Shadow Moses Island, but instead to Africa because a new Metal Gear prototype is there. He still went to Alaska to cultivate mullets though, and Mailing and Campbell are also still here, bossing him around, though nowhere near as much. It's a simpler game, you see, because it's on the Game Boy. Oh, Jesus. Thank God that ended. Snake Man's Guardman's Lego. We back, but no ego. It is very much just Metal Gear 2 at its core though, with some of the gameplay additions seen in Solid added along the way, like flattening yourself against walls and... yeah. That's about it. If it ain't broke, don't break it, I guess. Honestly, what I think they took more of a cue from is the weird, abstract VR expansion spin-off that I'm sure won't be relevant again later. In that it has a DMC-like mission-based structure, even allowing you to select missions from a separate screen after finishing the game. Not that the Resivania shit is gone exactly, but like I said, Devil May Cry. Random doors will just prompt a score screen rating your ass like some type of object, though given that it's snakes, who can blame? It's a fun game though. You'll meet up with a cutie officer who had been posted there for a while who can give you deets on the base, giving shit context as well as romance. There's a big man native big guns who loves himself some birds. You dodge lasers with infrared goggles, blast a power box with remote control missiles so you can walk over electric flooring, free the nerdy scientist from his scaredy cat confinements, fight the evil viper in his hind D, crawl through vents, and use color-coded boxes to navigate your way through a warehouse. It's really solidly paced, and a pretty fun little short little alternate universe side story with some pretty fun little short little characters, romances, plot twists, codec calls, boss fights, and dude patterns that's a fuck of a whole lot more arcadey than it is obsessed with being a cinematic set-piece heavy beast. Does have a few tedious sections in that through it expanding upon shit, like the missile box sequence, it'll now be a fully fledged stage with a maze, harder to hit targets, and things that make you think about how to hit what to pass where. It's designed good on its own merits for sure, but can't overstay its welcome just a fair fucking bit. Or at least it does to someone like me who isn't all that into puzzle games. Which is kinda what this feels like at times, especially when they hit you with the color-coded boxes and shit. Though, in that, it is a pretty great fit for handheld, I guess, so it can be forgiven. Really though, this would only prove that Shinto was a successful clone of the Big Dick himself, with his own quirks regarding gameplay design for sure, but fully capable of emulating the storytelling style of Kojima perfectly. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world in an office probably only a few doors away, Hideo had his hands full too, as not only was he working on Solid's ambitious sequel, but he also helped to direct a brand new game called Zone of the Enders. A lower budget, smaller title that functioned mostly as the brainchild of Noriaki Okamura, aka the dude who worked on loads of those stupidly flashy rhythm games that you see in Japanese arcades. Which is why Zone of the Enders would also be fast and flashy, boasting rhythmic fighting and a silly story feeling mostly like a badly dubbed 80s mech anime from the 90s, where I think Kojima mostly just walked in from time to time to give the old thumbs up. I reviewed it, watch it. Using MGS2's engine though, it would serve as a type of sneak peek of things to come, both in that it looked and sounded more or less exactly like what MGS2 would do sans the anime, but also because it would actually include a demo for it, showing off how ambitious of a game shit would be. I mean, Kojima was ready to please at this point. Konami's dick lodged so far past his hymen that he was taking the fan deck along with it, thus resulting in a game that would deliver on the hype. A game that would blow your expectations right out of the fucking water. A game starring a deified Solid Snake. Running along that bridge like a solid cheetah, jumping on that boat like a solid fish. Thing is that this boat is set to house a prototype Metal Gear of some sort for a military showcase conducted by the US Army. Snake and Otacon both knew this, and so they teamed up together. One sneak man and one hack man, getting those deets and using them to stop the US from being bad, cause Lord knows it fucking needs it. Only, Ocelot and his Russian boys invade too, who seem to want a piece of that Metal Gear pie, thus turning the boat into a Snake Man's Guard Man's once more, with a dash of leg. In the back-end bonus DVD that Konami did back in the PS2 days cause they nearly turned cool there for a sec, it is revealed that Kojima in fact did design his levels with Lego. Dude isn't really a programmer. Or a designer. He's a writer, a director, and a general ideas guy. So for him to build stages, motherfucker wasn't gonna use the engine's level builder. Hell no, fuck that. Lego. Look at him go, such a cute little man. Quickly un- and re-equipping items with the flick of a trigger rather than having to scroll, climb on top of shit by backing up against it and pushing button, roll by tapping the crawl button while running, which can also be used as a quick attack, hang from ledges by hanging from ledges, and even open up lockers. By far, the biggest addition though is the advent of the stun gun, what don't kill dudes, instead necking them to sleep with a single well-aimed shot and letting you take those shots properly by way of first-person aiming. You can't walk, so you won't be calling any duties, but the general rule is that if you can see it, you can pop it, which kinda changes the design overall a lot actually. For one, dudes don't disappear, not when dead and certainly not when sleep, forcing you to hide their bodies hoping that they don't wake up in the meantime, and overall the levels had to be a lot more corridor-like to accommodate for that, as you'd be able to take dudes down far too easily. Plus, it's not like these guards are just pawns and vision cones anymore either, as when one spots you, you don't trigger the alert phase instantly. Dudes all have to radio in, giving you some more time to fuck around, thus properly bringing back the ballsiness that made the first two games so much fun. Which is kind of the thing too. More and more, it starts to feel like an easy to pick up, hard to master, stealth-based playground. Snake's health bar is huge, can shake motherfuckers down at gunpoint, and you can interact with the environments themselves a lot more too. In doing so, the more puzzly elements of yore regarding the guardmans have gone, given the more straightforward corridors and the obvious nature of the vision cones, but shit'll also feel a lot more low-key to make it tenser. There aren't any big screaming set pieces with singular solutions. You just get, say, a one-off hallway where a boy will cast a shadow so you can shoot and teabag them like the mature adult you are. Then you go upstairs, settle against a wall to bypass a camera, avoid the lasers and hide inside of a storage room, and so on. You ain't exactly shooting missiles and taking down hindies here, which is a nice change of pace. Honestly, I feel like the VR missions had something to do with this too, as their designs may have gotten the team to reconsider the strength of the guardmans and the varieties in which these can be placed. Especially with said added interactive environments, allowing you to pop a fire extinguisher to expose beams, take out cameras by shooting them, break bottles, shoot fruits, and get got cause of Snake sneezing. Shooting the glass to distract being treated to a wee bit of nanomachinage not only seems like a really neat touch, but it also made me feel clever for wanting to try it out. Just, kind of a shame that the Trank is so incredibly OP though. Man, I gotta say, the writing feels almost grossly expository this time around. The opening dialogues between Snake and Otacon do so especially, being that they keep having to remind each other of who they are and what they're doing here. Shit feels weird, clinical even. Kojima has a military advisor now too, so the Tom Clancy terminology has reached an all-time high, providing immersively detailed guard mannerisms and tactics both in and outside of cutscenes, sure, but it can also make the banter feel really distant and down to formal. Though the codec is pretty hardcore on fleek. We got Otacon and... Oh, well, I mean, at least he has a lot to say.
Blow the whole thing.
But it can show video now, and 3D faces, and all of that somehow shows up in Snake's brain. Nano machines, son. But anyways, Snake need to find where Metal Gear so he can photo and Snowden on him. Once on the bridge though, he spots a cool Russian lady who'll be all like,
"No, I want to fight."
But the general man say,
"No, you are carrying the child. Go home."
And so then Snake tranks her ass and steals her gun, leaving her to freeze out in the cold, heads off to the basement to take those pics and upload them to Otacon's MySpace page, only, surprise, it's Liquid, now Ocelot's right hand, and they
Came to take it back.
And so they do, cutting the boat in half, leaving Snake to sleep with the fishes. So I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 follows the tale of pretty boy Raiden, crawling out of the water like a punk bitch fish, penetrating that base like a flaccid dick, all in order to stop some asshole called Solid Snake. Thing is that he defected and blew up an oil tanker for which the cleanup facility was built called the Big Shell. Only now, said Big Shell is being taken over by a team of anime terrorists, led also by a man called Solid Snake. And right off the bat, I feel like I should say that Raiden kinda sucks. I mean, the story this time is really banter heavy, and Raiden's nasally voice does not make it any better. Like, when Snake found his first guard, he went all like, but when Raiden finds his first guard, he sounds like he just encountered a school bully at the gates and is calling his mom to come pick him up. Also this.
Did you say nerd?
Also, he just fails to intimidate anyone. He'll hold someone at gunpoint only for them to mock him to his face. And like I said, even the opening level doesn't do him any favors either. Thing is that the opening of MGS1 was like a proper challenge. You had to sneak past guards and cameras and actually use your wits to sneak into the base. But Raiden, on the other hand, gets scared by one guy.
Colonel, I've sighted an enemy sentry.
Takes advantage of the fact that the guards in the other room are unconscious, gets electrocuted, and then gets spotted regardless of anything anyway, having to boringly wait around for the elevator to arrive. I mean, nothing cool happens. It's just him being a weaselly bitch, and that when he does make his way up, there'll also be no one there. No hindy, no guards, no camera. Just him slipping out over some bird poop. Anyway, the gameplay is quite similar to that of the first game. It's fairly linear, and each strut of the big shell is kind of like its own self-contained little challenge in a way. Thing is that the radar doesn't function right away. No, you first need to access the nerd in each area to be able to see it, thus effectively making you blind for a pretty decent chunk of the game. Especially because of finding said nerds can be quite tricky at times. Now, the game is very tightly paced due to its set piece per strut design. At one point, you'll be required to shoot remote-controlled missiles at a power box. You can walk over electric flooring, for instance, wear an enemy uniform to infiltrate part of the base, dispose a ton of bombs with coolant spray, and even fight cyborg ninjas and stuff, which would have all been really cool if it weren't for the fact that these are all things found in MGS1. Thing is that while the bomb disposal and the enemy uniform shit is new, the ninja and the secret codec messages telling you that there are mines hidden there, and the missiles are all directly lifted from Metal Gear Solid. It feels kinda weird and lazy, especially with how original the ideas in Metal Gear Solid 1 were. Anyways, that codec is also used a lot more now here. We got Colonel Campbell returning from MGS1, sounding as weird as...
Push it in rapid succession to swim faster. Change your heading with the left stick. Up will take you up, down takes you lower, left and right to face those directions.
As ever, Rose, Raiden's girlfriend who saves your progress but then also nags at you at very awkward moments. Very tactical. And then there's loads of other people who you meet in and around the base, which is where my main issue with the game lies. Thing is that people talk a lot in this game, but instead of all of this being animated, they will always take to using the codec. Like during this bit here, where Raiden and Emma are face to face with no one around, but they'll still cut to the codec anyway. Whereas in MGS1, the already striking similar scene with her brother Otacon is entirely animated, with camera angles and everything. Whereas here in MGS2, Raiden enters a room, gets grabbed by the pussy, codec. Now, don't get me wrong, I get that animation is hard and that it costs a lot of money, but seeing all of these static, expressionless faces talking in a black void is still pretty boring. Nano machines, son. Anyway, you do talk a lot in this game too. Thing is that the bosses are much like in MGS1, really well fleshed out, given big speeches before and after their battles. Now, these include an immortal lady with a giant big gun, a fat guy on roller skates who plants bombs, not Solid Snake himself, and Vamp, a vampire. And you learn about them through how, for instance, Fat Man has you destroying his bombs together with his old mentor, who is mad that he could only teach him about bombs and not about being a cool person, which is why he looks like this.
How dare you! I'm an artist!
However, you don't really connect with them per se. In fact, you don't really connect with a whole lot. I mean, there's reveals, betrayals, and epic romances, but they go by so fast that it almost feels like they're just going through the motions. The Metal Gear Solid checklist, as it were. I mean, even the Colonel doesn't seem to care about Raiden much either, or show any emotion at all. People just boss you around and you go there like a good boy. Not to mention, the times that these calls can occur can feel really out of place, like in the middle of a fight.
Raiden, the terrorists have retaliated for our bomb neutralization.
What?
A hostage has been killed, shot in the head. They shot one of them on the roof, just to make sure we caught it. One of our satellites caught it clear as day.
Is he still there?
I don't know. I can't get a response.
You don't think he's been like the other hostages? A hostage was killed in retaliation after the SEAL 10 disaster, remember?
What are you talking about?
Quite quickly, though, it'll become clear that the Colonel is full of shit, and that Solid Snake isn't dead or a villain. In fact, it almost starts to feel as if Kojima wanted you to hate Raiden, showing how Snake big man, big health with tranq gun and functional radar zipping his way through, fucking everyone up like a solid dick, whereas Rai comes in rocking like a flaccid cockin without a gun of any kind, a tinier health bar, and faulty tech that needs nodes to work. Even you, not relating or caring much at all for these intangible people, falls apart the moment some real-ass, in-console human beings start walking onto the scene, like Snake and Otacon. Not factors of the simulation, the Colonel says. And then, suddenly, the codecs start getting a fuck of a whole lot more interesting again. Fun, even. All the while, the Colonel and Rose can't even be fucked to hit you with the custom messages whenever you call to save. Forever cold, repetitive, and scripted, like they're nothing but gameplay features. The voice acting overall will have a lot of on-purposey bad-feeling bits.
A dud!
Wow, so much meta there. Deep shit. Not to mention that just about every one of Snake's lines sound like direct winks at the camera or just outright mouthpiece rambles from Kojima himself.
The kid's wired with nanomachines.
Yeah, sure, similar meta plot twists were used in MGS1 and even Metal Gear 2, but the key difference there is that both you and Snake were led along, yet here it's just Raiden. You will figure out what's up, Snake knows what's up, the ninja certainly fucking does. The Colonel is what's up. And Ocelot can't even be bothered to pretend that he doesn't know. Everyone knows, except for the boy. I don't know how much of this was planned initially, like, obviously the ending of MGS1 sets up Solidus and shit, but somewhere along the line for sure, Kojima must have gotten really fucking jaded, either with Konami or the fans, or just the whole concept of sequels in general. As, for all intents and purposes, Metal Gear Solid 2 is a mock sequel that would first set up and give you the perfect follow-up with the perfect Snake, i.e. Metal Gear Solid 2, only to then drop Raiden on you and loads of rehashed gameplay elements and story beats, which is weird considering that he would never do that otherwise. Also, a whole load of subversive postmodern meta garbage that I will talk about in a bit. Essentially, making for a game that would be so fucked up and fourth wall-less that whatever its endpoint would end up being, it would be impossible to build upon in any sane or sensible manner. Maybe he did that to ensure that Snake wouldn't revenge ever again, or perhaps just because he was tired and never wanted Metal Gear to really be a series in the first place. After all, it was just a hokey hand-me-down. Compare Metal Gear 1 to Snatcher and Metal Gear 2 to Police Knots, and it becomes clear to see that his ambitions laid elsewhere regarding the scope of his storytelling. Metal Gear Solid, I guess, seemed like a pretty good pick at the time, as mysteriously political stealth action war man would make for good cutscene fodder, but I doubt he really wanted it to be much more than just that. Certainly seems like it, at least, as we'll go forward. But yeah, meta shit. First of all, it's really weird how all of these Russian soldiers and American big shell and boat employees seem to have Asian girlfriends, or at least a very strong fondness for Asian women. All lockers, every single one of them, without fail, highlight this. The way that I see it is that Raiden is the fan, the player, wired with nanomachines, raised on nothing but VR mission video games as he's bossed around by abstract gameplay mechanics, doing video gamey bullshit like disposing a number of bombs. He is, in fact, the nerd. And seeing as you are too, why not fill in your name, date of birth, and country of origin while you're at it, nerd? Snake, though, isn't a nerd. Sure, you may have controlled him that one time when he had the nanos too, but now he's far too big for your bridges. Suck his dick, why don't you? Sandbag everything he says. He's Solid Snake, ooh!
Snake, you're a legend, and that's why I need to ask you this.
Legend? A legend is nothing but fiction. Someone tells it, someone else remembers, everybody passes it on.
I'm here because I was assigned to the...
Even when you team up with him, dude fucking doms your ass, taking out dudes by the dozen. And As I said before as well, Raiden has everything taken care of for him right from the get-go. By Snake, leaving him solely to get emasculated by the president.
What are you... What the...
You're a man?
And us gamers will not stand for that. We are manly. Hell, even when this motherfucker gets a bit of his own moment with this nerdy weeaboo girl, cause that's all you deserve, boyo. Snake still ends up having to rush in to do the job properly. Basically, dude's only about a smidge better than...
While Raiden was interviewing Ames, a lost Johnny had to redirect the things he ate. Diarrhea once more within the Shell One's core, as Raiden's mic picked up the act of him pooping all over his sack. Oh, poor Johnny. Oh, poor pooping Johnny.
Also, Ames died because of a heart attack. Not because of Fox Die, though, just because this entire thing is an exercise in recreating the same events as seen in MGS1. Rigging Ames's pacemaker with nanomachines just to make it so. Who's Ames? No one cares. I'd pull that bullshit where I summarize the story by not summarizing shit, still walking you through all of the details, but shockingly few of the story beats into will actually be relevant to the series as a whole, being that it's all fake anyway. You see, pulling the strings all along is a group called the Patriots, a bunch of old white dudes who nobody know who literally control the entire world, shaping how media covers events, staging said events if possible to keep the public scared or occupied and therefore controlled, and generally just being very stern meanie butts. So all of this though, on the other hand, being the fake Snake who take base used to be the president. Not sure how nobody ever noticed that the president was a clear-cut replica of the super famous soldier guy, but okay. And as such, he saw what the Patriots did, or at least what they didn't let him do. So he grew tired and sought some change. Not a bad plan, really, only to execute it, he would team up with this Ocelot guy, who is sketch as all hecky, to set in motion the events of MGS1. Also that Ocelot could get some test data on Metal Gear and stuff and fuck over at least one of the Snakes. Also, not sure why he would then take the right hand of the most fucked one, but I mean, you know. Anyway, they also staged a boat thing to fuck over the leftover Snake, framing him and the like, and also so that a base could be built there as an oil spill cleanup facility, only it wouldn't be an oil spill cleanup facility as it would actually be a front for building a new Metal Gear the size of a fucking kaiju. Don't know exactly why this needed to be done right outside of Manhattan, but I'm sure the Patriots know what they're doing. As do Solidus, Ocelot, and Liquid's right hand as they nicked the damn thing coup d'etat style with their band of anime terrorists. Naturally, the Patriots don't like this, which is why they sent in Raiden's wired ass to put a stop to it. Only the Patriots were planning this all along, as Ocelot doesn't actually work for Solidus, as he is in fact a Patriot lackey. Yeah, that's right. The mysterious, well-built-up, backstab-happy cowboy is actually the Patriots on-the-scene guy, aka their right-hand man. As what the Patriots really wanted was to create a type of Solid Snake simulation. Thing is that they scared of the internet, seeing that it allows people to have more of a voice and to share information without regulation. And Snake and Otacon were just so happened to be using that to their advantage to Julian some Assanges, just with less rape allegations. And so the Patriots go full Ajit EU on him by creating a shit show that could disrupt the public enough to where they would have to implement loads of new regulations. Just like how airports got tighter after 9/11, or how things like censoring ISIS videos led to horribly strict demonetization and false flagging bots on YouTube. Not to say that airport security shouldn't be more careful if people is sneaking bombs around, and that things like hate speech and terrorist recruitment shouldn't fuck the hell off either, but tinfoil cynicism could easily lead one to think that those in power would seek to abuse these openings, just as how the Patriots plan to do here. And I think it's safe to say that some of that does happen, if only just due to negligence. In MGS2, though, things are actually that nefarious, as the reason that this required an entire MGS1 simulation at the cost of Raiden and even Solidus in the first place was simply because if they could, in theory and practice, contain, process, contextualize, and recreate an event of this scale, with the public buying all of it through using their fancy new AI GW, which just so happened to be what Raiden was talking to all this time, by the way, then they could potentially do that with everything and anything, thus regaining total control, if not gaining even more than they ever had in the first place. Now, before the game dumps all of that on you in a series of rapid-fire plot twists and barely even in-universe exposition dumps, it needs to get you to give a shit. Which it does by A, making Otacon cry again, and B, actually turning Raiden into more than just a character model. Otacon has a big sister, you see, who Raiden saves, but then she die anyway in the hands of her brother. Her final words be all like, "Call me by my real name. Don't use my initials, you bitch." Only for him to go,
"What's wrong with EE?"
And then she die, releasing weirdly incestuous vibes into the stratosphere, hinting that she actually liked him as a proper man guy, with him adding to that by admitting to fucking his stepmom, aka her bio mom. It's weird, and I don't like it. Sniper Wolf parallels also, who was Otacon's lover almost sorta kinda, which, I mean, that doesn't help. But things are still quite sad due to how well it's presented, with her parrot hanging around repeating Otacon's real name, implying that she talked about him all the time. It's such an unexpected blowbang to the heart, given that, as stated, it's really hard to care for any of the characters prior to this, what with how stoic and even kinda cringeworthy a lot of the forced romance shit is between Rose and Raiden. Probably only serving to make you dislike him even more now that I think about it. Anyway, the story suddenly starts paying things off in a twisted way that were built up all the way back in MGS1, automatically harkening back to the potential emotions felt during the scenes relating to it, which works really well. Even better is that immediately after that, Raiden gets captured and is brought back to MGS1 quite fucking literally and metaphorically, thus pulling the caring for the real world inside your console vibes back into the limelight as well. Seeing as here it is revealed that Raiden was actually a child soldier in one of Solidus' old gnome kitty camps, making him officially him and not you. Quickly determining his own reasons for pushing forward, and also Ninja's sword with its own set of entire analog stick-driven mechanics over the course of the game's final sequence. And oh boy, what a final sequence it is, lads.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game.
So, all of those plot twists and turns I just laid out get thrown at you while the game goes all,
I need scissors. 61.
And then some lady appears in your minimap, all because the Colonel and Rose were a combined conjuring of Raiden's, aka formerly the player's, wants and desires, so more of the same pretty much, and the nanomachine AI, which is now breaking down for a variety of reasons, chief of which Raiden getting woke on him. As is Liquid's right hand, by the way, overtaking Ocelot entirely last minute, essentially cutting him out of the picture mid-twist.
Rest in peace, my son.
I think your mustache is cool, actually.
So Liquid runs off with Metal Gear because he was able to get top secret Patriot insider info through Ocelot, and Snake follows in tow, leaving Raiden and Solidus to finish the simulation by having a fight mirroring the final boss of the last game. The computer people also have a hissy fit inside of your head as they waffle on about some very profoundly predictive shit regarding modern social climates, but none of that really matters in the grand scheme of things, as Solidus dies, and then the last stretch of non-symbolicness flutter away, with Snake appearing out of nowhere mid-Manhattan saying some shit about jeans. Then you get a credit sequence that feels absolutely nothing like the rest of the game tonally, upon which Kojima's cheeky grin begins to fade in the back of my head somewhere. But hey, Shenta helped write this mess somehow, so good on him. Really though, all this game was just a vessel for Kojima to wink into the camera a few times with his player allegory fanboy nerd shit, and to tell you about his generic dad tier life philosophies. Yeah.
More on this game, and its ending, when I talk about M.G.S.4. Forget about it for now. The series is over. All hail Kojima.